Bright Duty. Every student matters.
Now we'll talk about an assembly, the body whose task was to frame the constitution, and that was the Constituent Assembly. Constituent Assembly, it was a body. Question can be asked of 1 mark. What do you mean by the term Constituent Assembly? Constituent Assembly, it is a body whose task is to frame the Constitution. Okay, so this Constituent Assembly was formed in 1946 before the independence, which had 389 members in total. But after partition, this Indian Constituent Assembly had only 299 members. It split. Okay, and that drafted the document finally on 26th November 1949. Constitution was adopted, but it was came into effect on 26th January 1950. Constitution came into effect. Children, do you know why we waited for these 2 months when our constitution was ready by 26th November 1949? Then why we enforced it after 2 months, January 26, 1950? There is a reason behind. Children, in our history, remember in 1930, in 1929, there was a Lahore session. The session was being held under the presidentship of Jawaharlal Nehru. In that Lahore session of 1929, our leaders decided that now we will fight for Purna Swaraj, that is complete independence. And now we will celebrate that day of complete independence. When? On 26th January 1930. And children, do you know that on that particular day, on 26th January 1930, the tricolor was hoisted on the coast of River Ravi. And from that 26th January has some significance in our history. But we got independence on 15th August. So how can we remember this particular day of 26th January? So when we made our constitution, we waited for 2 months. And after 2 months, we'll enforce that our constitution on this particular day, so that for the rest of our life, we'll remember this day, because this day has a lot of significance in our past, in our history. That is why 26th January 1950, our constitution came into effect. So you can see these pictures, the members of the Constituent Assembly. Yes. Now, we'll discuss another question. Reasons. What were the main reasons for accepting constitution made by the Constituent Assembly? Why do we accept this constitution? People can ask question. Yes, there are reasons for accepting constitution made by the Constituent Assembly, because this constitution reflects broad consensus of the people of India as a whole. It means that this constitution does not have the aspirations or the demands fulfilled of only 1 or 2 sections of society, but this particular constitution reflects the broad consensus. Each and every single section of society, their demands, their aspirations were reflected in this constitution as a whole. Okay? No questioning on the legitimacy of the constitution. After so many years of independence, so many years of making of our constitution, still the true nature of our constitution has not been changed. We are so blessed, we are so fortunate that when we made our constitution on 26th January 1950, from that time to now, no major change in the true nature of our constitution. Our basic ideology, the basic principles are still the same, whereas there are so many countries which have changed their constitutions so many times, but we have not done that. So we are so, blessed that we have our constitution. Okay, so nobody can question the legitimacy, the legalness of this constitution. Constituent Assembly ensured fair representation of all regions of India. Children, do you know that in the Constituent Assembly, there are people representing this assembly were from different sections of society, from different professions. Yes, they were the legal experts were there, lawyers were there, there were people from Hindus, Muslims, Christians were there, people who were representing the depressed classes, they were there, women candidates, women members were there in this Constituent Assembly. So, there was a fair representation of all regions of India. So, this Constituent Assembly, they worked in a systematic, open and consensual manner. Every member in this assembly, they sat together, they expressed their views so that they cannot leave, they try not to leave even a small section of the society. And that work they have done in a very systematic manner, in an open manner. Everybody should know what discussions have been going on in these assemblies, in this Constituent Assembly. Okay. So, broad discussion and debates before preparing a draft of the rules were being held. So, every document and every word spoken, whatever idea they have expressed in that meeting, they were all recorded and preserved for future reference. And those records were known as Constituent Assembly debates. There were 11 bulky volumes, and it was all made public through press so that people could also know what their leaders, their representatives in the Constituent Assembly are doing, what principles they are adding, what features they are including in the Constitution. Okay, so that is these are the main reasons for accepting Constitution made by the Constituent Assembly, so that nobody could object the very legitimacy of the Constitution. So everything was there for every single section of society in this Constitution. Okay.